Yes, sir, audible.
Okay.
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay. Please mute yourself. Mute your mic. Okay. So just I will revise and then I will start new bit. So during yesterday's lecture, so we have discussed regarding steering geometry. So basically this geometry or the proper geometry for the steering is required to negotiate the turn. So second part of this, that is wheel alignment. So to have directional stability and control over the vehicle, so that can be achieved by running straight down a road, by running a vehicle straight down a road, by entering and leaving a turn easily and resist the road shocks. So next part we have seen that is related to the wheel alignment. So whatever setting of front wheels and steering mechanism which is required to have easier directional control, to have minimum tire wear, to have good stability to the vehicle, and to have parallel rolling of the front wheels. So basically wheel alignment, there are two types of factors which are having influence on the wheel alignment. So factors pertaining related to the steering geometry, which include various angles such as camber, kingpin inclination, caster, and toe in and toe out positions of the wheels. And another factors which are pertaining to the wheel condition, that is balance of wheel, inflation of tire, and brake adjustment. Then in that we have seen camber angle, kingpin inclination, and included angle. So these three angles we can observe just by viewing the vehicle from the front side. Then what is definition of the camber? That we have seen angle between center line of the tire and the vertical line when viewed from the front of the vehicle. Then related to the positive and negative camber with respect to outward and inward tilt. Then what will happen if positive camber will be provided? That we have considered, we have seen. So this is about camber, which is required to reduce tire wear, to have easy steering and steering stability. Then kingpin inclination. So whatever angle between vehicle line and center of the kingpin, or that is nothing but the kingpin angle. Then included angle, so addition of kingpin, that is KPI, and camber angle, that is nothing but the included angle. Then next we have seen that is caster angle. So while looking from the side of the vehicle, so whatever angle we are observing, that is nothing but the caster angle. So caster angle is angle formed by the forward or backward tilt of the steering axis. Then purpose of caster to maintain directional stability and control, to increase steering stability, reduce driver's effort. Then toe in, toe out that we have seen. Then slip angle. Then related to the slip angle, there are two important terms related to the steering. One is called as the understeer and other is called as the oversteer. So with respect to the slip angle, we have seen the difference, but in actual, what is understeer and what is oversteer? So that we are going to see. So additionally, I have included 2 to 3 slides so that you can get idea about understeer and the oversteer. So from this whatever figure on the left hand side, so this one is the vehicle and we are going to check what is understeer, and this one is desired direction of whatever vehicle we need to move. So this one is the desired direction. Due to the understeer, it will take larger radius of curvature. So understeer, in the understeer, the car does not turn enough and leaves the road. So generally, it will take larger radius of curvature accordingly whatever aimed direction that is missing, and it will take larger radius of direction. But generally, if road is in broad enough, this is desired. This one is desired condition. Then secondly, that is oversteer. So what is oversteer? So we are aiming in some direction, and additionally it will, in addition to that, it is steering. So more sharply than the intended. So whatever car steers more sharply than the intended. So similar to this understeer, this is the desired path, and in case of understeer, this is the actual path, and in case of oversteer, this one is the desired path and this one is the actual path. So here the car turns more sharply than intended and could get into spin. That means it can skid, so it may roll. So in the first case, it is not rolling, it is not spinning. That's why understeer is desirable as compared to the oversteer. So oversteer, there is possibility of spinning the vehicle or rolling of the vehicle about longitudinal axis, and because of that there may be accident. So again, you can check another one figure image. So understeer occurs when a car steers less than the amount commanded by the driver. So whatever intended direction, whatever desired direction, or whatever commanded direction, so it is steer less as compared to that one. So you can see or relate this sentence with this image. This image. So car will take path having larger radius of curvature. And secondly, in case of oversteer, oversteer occurs when car turns. That means when car steers by more than the amount commanded by the driver. So again, the desired path is same. However, because of oversteer, it will take sharp turn, and this is the end condition. This one is the end condition for understeer, and this is for the oversteer. So in case of understeer, it will take larger radius of curvature. In case of oversteer, it will take less radius of curvature. Now, so already whatever difference we have studied, so you should remember these points. So already I have discussed. Then next bit, that is related to the power steering. So you can see one schematic figure here shown. So we know the steering system in which one gearbox is there, and that gearbox is called as a steering gearbox, and which is required to convert rotary motion into to and fro motion of the arm. So basically, in case of the power steering, our aim is to have simple steering, and we need to provide a hydraulic assist that will help driver to operate the steering with minimum effort. So power steering is shown in this figure. So I will show another one image so that we can get idea. So generally, for the power steering or to provide power steering, a rack and pinion type of steering gearbox is used because it is direct acting. So one element is pinion and another one element is the rack. So when pinion rotates, that rack will move to and fro. So that's why to have simple design, so this direct acting, that is rack and pinion steering gearbox, is used in case of the power steering. So you can see this is the rack, this one is the pinion which is connected to the steering shaft, this one is steering wheel. So when steering wheel is rotated, this rack is going to have to and fro motion along transverse direction. Now in case of power steering, along with this rack and pinion, one hydraulic force, that hydraulic force is generated, and that will multiply the input force in order to support or in order to reduce efforts required to steer the vehicle or efforts required to pivot the wheels. So the hydraulic force in this type of power steering or the power steering, the hydraulic force is used to multiply the steering input force in order to smoothen the steering of the front wheels. So here this hydraulic force is generated using series of components which includes hydraulic cylinder. So this one is hydraulic piston, and this casing around the rack, that is nothing but the hydraulic cylinder. Then hydraulic lines, these fluid lines, then highly compressed hydraulic fluid. So this red part, you can consider it as a fluid, and a coupling mechanism. So this consists of number of parts. Already it is shown: fluid lines, hydraulic piston. So this one is the rack. How to move the rack in the transverse direction? So we need to provide one hydraulic piston, and that can be moved with the help of hydraulic force, which is being controlled using this rotary control valve. Rotary control valve, and the fluid quantity is maintained with the help of this power steering pump or hydraulic pump. So this you can see. So whenever the steering is rotated or driver rotates steering wheel, so hydraulic pump which is driven by the engine start pumping highly compressed hydraulic fluid through the line. So basically in this power steering, so I will draw one schematic diagram. So only this one is hydraulic cylinder, and here this one is piston, and here this is and here you can consider the rack, right? So to move this rack in this direction, so oil should be provided, that hydraulic force should be applied from this side so that piston will move in this direction. Again, to move the rack in this direction, so whatever oil or hydraulic force that should be applied from this side, and this side oil should be released to the reservoir. So based on the requirement or based on the desired steering, either left or right, so the oil is provided via this rotary control valve to one side of the fluid lines that will actuate the piston, that will actuate the hydraulic piston, and that will move the rack in that desired direction, and vehicle can be steered in the desired direction. So whatever hydraulic pressure produced by the pump, that will be provided to the hydraulic cylinder, and which in turn applies pressure over the cylinder piston. So what it means? So whatever the hydraulic pressure produced, and that will be provided either on this side or this side, and accordingly this piston is will be operated. So how to decide on which side that hydraulic pressure or oil with having some pressure will be provided, either on this side or this side? That will be decided by this rotary control valve, and this rotary control valve will be operated by this steering wheel. So the piston which is under the high pressure will start moving from one end to the another, and that will push the rack, and this will be applied, that force will be applied to the knuckle, and we are going to get the steering. So based on the direction of the steering, so oil will be provided on this side or this side, and oil from this side automatically via this rotary valve, it is collected in one of the reservoir. So this high pressure fluid sent by the hydraulic cylinder then applies the pressure to the attached pinion, whatever pinion, through the coupling mechanism, and high force to the rack gear is applied, and we can get the steering, or we can negotiate the turn So this power steering helps driver, or it will reduce the efforts required to steer the vehicle. So in previous days, so whatever efforts required to steer the truck, which were maximum, more efforts are required. Nowadays, because of this power steering, that driver is able to steer the heavy vehicles with minimum efforts. So this is again enlarged view for the mechanism which is used in case of the power steering. So you can see this is the fluid line, these are the fluid lines. This one is the piston, this is the rod on which a rack is provided. So in addition to manual effort, this hydraulic force is required to assist the driver so that we can negotiate the turn. So in the previous figure we have seen, so this is pressure tube and this one is to the reservoir. So one line is having high pressure fluid, and from the other or another line is to collect the oil having the low pressure, and that is provided to the reservoir, and one line is from the pump. So here you can check this. Screen is visible. Hello, screen is visible. Screen is visible. Somebody can respond. Milind, screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So you can see the working and function of each of the component in one slide. So this one is rotary control valve. So what is the function of this rotary control valve? It is mentioned here. This one is the important, and which is actuated when driver rotates this steering wheel. So this senses the force being exerted on the steering wheel and ensures hydraulic assistance is only provided when the vehicle is turning and not when it's driving in a straight line. So whenever vehicle is moving in a straight direction, so that rotary valve is not going to supply pressurized oil to either side of the piston. So this will actuate whenever driver decides steering in any direction. And then these are the two lines, which two lines shown, those are called as the fluid lines. So generally these are the tubes which carry hydraulic fluid into the cylinder. So whatever pump is there, so in that the pressure is increased and that will be supplied through one fluid line, and whatever another side fluid is collected through the another fluid line, and it is provided and it is connected to the reservoir. So on one side pressurized fluid is supplied, and from other side it is collected in the reservoir. Then this one is the piston. So this can be moved with the help of the pressurized fluid. So it can be moved either in left or the right direction when steering is desired. So this piston is used to push rack. Then this is a torsion bar, or at the end of this bar pinion is connected, or this is a metal rod which twists when steering wheel is turned, and that will move the pinion gear right or left to steer the wheels. And this component, major component, which is called as hydraulic pump. So this pump is used to pressurize the fluid entering into the power steering system using series of rotating retractable vents. So basically it consists of four important components: piston and cylinder, then hydraulic pump, then fluid lines, and rotary control valve. So this one is the schematic figure which will help us to understand the working of power steering. So this one is the cylinder piston. This is power cylinder, or you can call it as a hydraulic cylinder. And to this there is rack is connected. So here this one is the control valve. Here pump will be there. So this control valve is connected to this chamber on the right hand side and chamber on the left hand side. So whatever oil needs to be supplied, so to this left part and to this right part, so pump, then control valve, so we can supply oil to this side, oil to this side, and again the remaining oil will be collected in the hydraulic, in the reservoir. So that reservoir is not shown here. So for time being, one example you can consider turning towards right direction. So here we can apply, or the pressure is applied on this side of piston, so that will move this piston in this direction, so that oil from this side it is collected through this line, and pressurized oil is provided to this side. So in this way the power steering mechanism is provided in the automobile to get, or to reduce driver's effort, or to negotiate the steering with minimum effort. So by incorporating the power steering mechanism, or by including power steering mechanism in the vehicle, so 20% steering ratio can be decreased. So suppose, for example, if one vehicle is having steering ratio of 30:1, that means to pivot front wheels through 1 degree, we need to steer or rotate the steering wheel through 30 degree. So that can be reduced by 20%. So we need to pivot, we need to steer only by 25 or 24 degrees to pivot the 1 degree, to pivot front wheels through 1 degree. So that is meaning of 20% reduction in the steering ratio. Okay. Then next bit is types of hydraulic power steering. So you can see both the figures. Okay. So there are two types of hydraulic power steering system. So one is called as integral power steering. So whatever discussion we have made, that was related to integral power steering. So by its name itself, you can understand, or you might have understood, that here a rack and pinion type of steering gear is used, and it's in the system itself that rack is pushed in desired direction by providing a power steering system in gearbox itself, in the gearbox itself. So in this, power piston is built into the steering gear. So another word, we can call it as a in the gearbox itself. So in the integral power steering, the power assist or hydraulic assist is provided to push the rack or one of the gear element directly. So that's why, so in integral power steering, rack and pinion type of gearbox is used because it is direct acting. So we can provide servo or support to the driver to operate the rack or to operate the steering. And in case of the linkage power steering, so here you can see this one is the steering, here manual steering gear or the gearbox, which is used to convert rotary motion into to and fro motion. Then this one is the control valve, which is operated through this steering. Then here you can see the power cylinder, and it is connected in between frame of the vehicle and the steering linkage, So here in integral power steering. So once that rotary motion is converted into to and fro motion of another element, and that to and fro motion is supported with the hydraulic assist. Here in the linkage system, linkage power system, to and fro motion is converted and it is supported by providing a separate mechanism or separate power cylinder to the linkage. And here that linkage or the power mechanism is attached between the frame of the vehicle and the steering linkage. So it is called as a linkage power steering. So generally it is provided on the heavy vehicles, and this integral power steering is provided on the car, that is the small vehicles, and this is used, this linkage power steering is used for the heavy vehicles. So this is one simple difference between integral power steering and the linkage power steering. Okay. So next important bit that is related to the condition for true rolling. So what is condition for true rolling, that we are going to check. So here schematic of four-wheeler is shown in the top view. So basically in an automobile, so vehicle relative motion between its wheel and the road surface should be one of pure rolling. So there is a firm grip between the road surface and the tire, and that wheel is going to be rolled, or it is going to rotate about the axle. And so in an automobile vehicle, the relative motion between its wheel and the road surface should be one of pure rolling. So to have this pure rolling, what will be the condition? And that condition we are going to call it as a condition for true rolling or pure rolling. So basically the steering or turning of the vehicle to one side or the other side is accomplished by turning the axis of rotation of the front wheel. So these are the rear wheels, these are the front wheels. Here this AB, one of the small stub axle, this CD, one of the small stub axle on which this is mounted, wheel is mounted on this AB, this wheel is mounted. So this AB and CD, we are going to call it as a short axles of the front wheel, or simply the stub axles required to mount the front wheels. And this EF is nothing but axle for the rear wheel. So these stub axles needs to be steered, needs to be turned about this C, about this A, and that is made available, that is made possible with the help of the knuckle arm. Okay. So whatever thing I have told, so again it is there, each front wheel has a separate short axle which is called as stub axle. So in this figure it is AB, it is CD. So whatever short axle of rotation or the axle provided on the front dead axle, that is called as a stub axle. Okay. So you know that on a circular path, so how this condition for true rolling is achieved, and or what is condition for true rolling. So this is EF, this one is axle for the rear wheel. So if we can project one line like this, and in the same way, if we can project one line through this AB and as well as through this CD, all these lines will intersect at one point, that is point I, and that is known as instantaneous center. So on a circular path, true rolling condition occurs when the projected axis of several wheels, now here two rear wheels, one projected axis, and two front wheels, two projected axis. So when the projected axis of several wheels, all moving in different curved paths, intersect at single point called the instantaneous center. So this I point is called as the instantaneous center. So thus the condition for the correct steering is that all four wheels must turn about the same instantaneous center. Then only the condition for true rolling is achieved. So in another words, so whatever intersection point, that is called as an instantaneous center. So this one axis, this is another axis, and this is third axis. So this I is called as a instantaneous center. Or the condition for the correct steering is achieved when all four wheels turn about the same instantaneous center. That is condition for true rolling. So here you can see there are two angles, one is phi and another one is theta. So in this way, vehicle is turning. So this is one case study or one example is considered. So this theta and phi, or this one is the theta. So the axis of inner wheels makes larger turning angle than the angle phi subtended by axis of outer wheel. So if you are going to consider this I, that is instantaneous center, this one is the angle made by this axis to this horizontal line, or this line, don't say it as a horizontal line, only reference line. This angle is theta, while to this reference line, the angle made by the axis of this outer wheel, this one is inner wheel. This way vehicle is steering, it is negotiating right turn. So this theta is greater than phi. So whatever angle made by this outer wheel. So here whatever things I have told. So while turning to the right side, axis of front wheel, front and the rear wheel meet at A, meet at I. So theta angle by which inner wheel is turned, phi angle by which outer wheel is turned, and A, this is A distance between points of front axle, and L, this one is L, it is not clearly seen, that is called as the wheel base. So AE, wheel base, distance between front axle and the rear axle, that is called as a wheelbase. And this A is called as a wheel track, distance between point of front axles, or we can call it as a track length. So you might have heard railway track. So the distance between this. Okay. So you can see from the figure that theta is always more than angle turn by the outer wheel. That angle is phi. So theta is greater than the angle made by the outer wheel, that is phi, to have pure rolling, or this is called as a condition for true rolling. So from the figure, so this A is nothing but AC. A is nothing but AC, or it is also EF, one and the same. So this EF can be written in the form of, or just by including this I. So EI minus FI. EI minus FI. Now, how to get this EI? So again, cot phi for this triangle and cot theta for this triangle. So directly we can get this L in bracket cos phi minus cot phi minus cot theta. And finally, just by rearranging the term, we can get cot phi minus cot theta is equal to A by L. So this is the fundamental equation of steering, or this is the fundamental condition which is required to have true rolling of the wheels. If this equation is satisfied in the vehicle, it is assured that the vehicle, while taking a turn of any angle, would not slip, but will have pure rolling motion between its wheels and the road surfaces. So cot phi minus cot theta is equal to A by L. That is condition for true rolling. So this is required while solving the numericals on the steering system. So remember that. So condition for true rolling is cot phi minus cot theta is equal to A by L. Okay. Now I'm stopping here. Next time I will take automotive steering mechanism, in that Davis and Ackermann, that we are going to complete, and afterwards numericals will be solved. Wait for 1 minute. I will take your attendance.